Hey guys, in this video I am going to talk to you guys about follow-up worksheets. This is one of the biggest parts of what we do. It's what all of our curriculum is for, basically. And so just to demonstrate, right, we have M0.1 over here. It's got the answer and everything, so this is just standard Slack stuff. But inside of here, we do have some responsives, right? So this one actually says that there's a responsive in the thought, so I know that if you've watched the previous hotkeys video, I can hit left, alt, and right arrow key, and I'm going to get the next hint, and that's going to be this combined like terms worksheet. This is pretty common. I'm going to check and see. So that's the only hint in here. This is a pretty common error that we see. Most students will do this out, x to the 4, y to the 7, minus x to the 3, y to the 7, and then they just say, oh, okay, well, we'll just subtract those and we'll end up with x, right? So the final answer that we get a lot here is x. When you get that, obviously they have combined unlike terms, right? So they've used the combined like terms skill incorrectly, and we just send, this thing over here. So this thought actually goes out to the student can see it and they can then move into this. Or, usually what I do is I will just go into my Google Drive or the VMC folder for you guys, and I'll search combined like terms. And then I'll just drag and drop it. I do this mostly because the students often have issues with the Google Drive links, or they'll have issues with the Word documents or things of that nature. Right, but so we've also done this in a previous video: search, drag and drop, send, etc., etc. And now we have all of these questions, and it's going to go through combined like terms, right? And that's good. One of the other things, though, that we'll see in that original question, so let me put that back, M0.1, is a lack of ability to multiply those terms out in general, right? So they just completely can't do it. You'll get a lot of weird things where students don't necessarily know what a term is, so they're doing x squared times x squared y to the 4th, and then y cubed times x squared y to the 4th, and they have a bunch of extra terms. They end up with 5, 6, 7 terms. It gets real crazy. And we do get a lot of weird things in here, right? But so we have a worksheet, what is a term? There, and so we can send this one, and this one just explains a bit of, here's just the literal definition of a term, and then let's identify a few terms. It's quick, it's short, it's to the point, right? Being familiar with some of these is really good, and then also knowing just generally how long they are, right? If an issue is not that big of a deal, or a student just sort of forgot something, then yeah, that's cool. Maybe we'll just learn it and move on. If the issue is really small like this, what is a term? They don't need to practice it forever. They just need to know it and probably practice it again over many days. So just different things like that, but knowing how long the worksheets are. And then also we have obviously multiplying monomials. Multiplying monomials. Let me type in monom. So this one has all sorts of stuff on. It's mostly just a test to see, hey, do you actually know how to do this? So once you know that this whole thing is one term and this whole thing on the inside is one term, then can you multiply all the monomials correctly, right? We have worksheets on distribution. We have worksheets on the actual skill of distribution. We have a worksheet on also exponent rules, obviously, right? So the multiplication exponent rule, which is just called exponents. And so the goal of all of these different exponents is to be able to treat whatever specific thing the student does not know, right? And this is where the entire method of our curriculum and our style, this is where it all comes from, is the student can come in, and even from the very first question, this is the first question in math that we give, but from this question, they can split off into a million different paths, right? Maybe they get it right, maybe they get it wrong, and they need to do combined like terms. They get it wrong, they need to do what is a term. They get it wrong, they need to do exponents or multiplying monomials, and there's so many different directions that it can go. So that's sort of the basic idea of it, right? Just giving these follow-up worksheets. But behind that sits a little bit of an important point as well, right? Actually, a very important point. And the concept is this. At Vora, we don't teach necessarily, right? We do mostly something that I like to think of as an empowerment-based learning, right? So most of the time, what is true of many students is that they know something, but they are not so certain that they know it well enough that they won't really use it, or they won't use it correctly, right? Sometimes they literally just don't know things. Okay, sometimes there's just things that they don't know. But most of the time they do know a thing, right? So they know multiplying monomials mostly, or they know it pretty well. And so what we want to do is just go refresh multiplying monomials, revisit all of those skills, make sure that all of the confidence is sort of rebuilt, and then that therefore empowers the student to go back and try again, right? Or if maybe they've never learned how to do distribution, and that's fine. We actually do have, for some of the lower skills, teaching worksheets that say, here's just literally how you do it. Here's a video, draw some rainbows, whatever, however you want to explain distribution. And we have some teaching worksheets as well for some of the lower level multiplication skills and things like that. But for the most part, we're trying not to have the instructor directly teach, because most of the time we want the student to have this mindset of, you have to go out there, you have to get that information, you've got to own your own education, you've got to own everything that you're doing here. So what do I do? When I'm talking to the students, I'm constantly sort of preaching that mindset, right? I'm really telling them, hey, by the way, I'm going to give you this worksheet. It's just going to reinforce this skill for you. And then it's going to make you obviously way more awesome at math. And then you're going to go back and you're totally going to crush this question, right? Or, maybe they come back and they don't crush that question. And I'm like, yeah, that's okay. You know what we call that? That's what we call that. Steps on the path to being a math god, right? Or something. Right? And I'm always trying to be a little bit, bright and work on that levity, right? And make things kind of funny and quirky and goofy. And that's my personal style. You can have whatever personal style you like. Obviously, different instructors are different people. But that's kind of the general goal, is this idea of empowerment through these follow-up worksheets, right? So what is your goal as an instructor? Your goal as an instructor in the most basic level is literally to see the problem and diagnose it, right? So you see that the student typed X, and you can diagnose that that is an issue of combined like terms, right? Because that means, in order to get there, that they definitely got this over here, right? They definitely got x to the 4, y to the 7, minus x to the 3, y to the 7. And then they just took it one step too far. Right. So they can multiply monomials, they can distribute, they just took it one step too far. They need to, fix that combined like terms skill issue. Or if they come out with something, as I mentioned, that's just totally crazy, it's probably more an issue in either not understanding distribution, not understanding multiplying monomials, etc. So your first step is a diagnosis, right? You just say, okay, I need to send this worksheet, and then you send it. But also then your second step, and this is so critical, is that empowerment step. That second step is, making sure that the student knows that this thing that we're doing has a purpose, right? You're not just sending them something so that you can be lazy and not have to do work, right? You're not just sending them something so that you can avoid teaching them or whatever. And a lot of students are really terrified by this. They do not like this concept of, having to be responsible for their own learning. Most of what they experience their whole entire lives is, here is some information, we're going to shove it down your throat. In a week's time, please just throw it back up and regurgitate it on this test, and then immediately forget it. We don't care, right? That's what their experience has been forever. And that is tragic. Right, don't get me started. It's absolutely tragic. It is just horrifying and terrible that is the way that the education system works, but we have to recognize that that's the way that it works, okay? And we have to work inside of that and know students are going to be resistant to this, they're going to be scared of it, and so you really, really want to drive home this sense of empowerment and strength that, hey, if you can get this skill, if you can get multiplying monomials, if you can get combined like terms, you're going to be awesome at math. You're going to get it, right? You're going to be that thing. And so that's kind of really, the goal of all of this. Questions about any of this stuff, definitely send them my way. Teaching is, very, very much that two-part thing. It's diagnosis, but it's also very, very much, what you convince the student that they are capable of. So really a huge part of what we do here. Questions, send them my way, and I will see you guys in the next video.